Hi, I'm Lois Hiranaga, and I'm from Maui, and here we're on the beautiful island of Hawaii, the Big Island. And it's always a treat to be here because this is like the center of where the flowers come from. Basically, if you're going to have a wedding, people will say buy local. No matter what island you are on, most of the flowers will come from the Big Island. And there is such a diversity of flowers here that it's like being in a candy store. And yesterday we had the opportunity of visiting many farms, and it was very exciting to see what's coming up. And we're here anyway today to show you some of the designs, what weddings in Hawaii, what we encounter, and in the process, and how we prepare with our brides. So one of the traditions is the lei exchange in Hawaii. And often in the ceremony, you will have a bride and groom exchanging leis. And I always think that that is the ideal way instead of wearing a boutonniere when you're in Hawaii. I'm going to start with the male lei, the groom's lei. And typically it would be a maili lei, which is often used for a lot of ceremonies here, not just weddings. Could be grand openings, birthday parties, anything of really significance, or leis often are exchanged. When we flew in, we got some leis, and you know we're locals and we're still getting leis, and we very much appreciate that thought that went behind when somebody gives us a lei. So anyway, the process of this is I got 2 leis. And I actually twisted it. And as I twisted each lei, then I actually got some of this green vine wire, and I actually tacked it into sections. So that's the process of how I put this together. Now, very important is how we store these leis. So even, and I'm going to cover that a lot in my presentation, the care and handling of tropical flowers and how that might help you extend the life of the flower. Okay, so in the case of this lei, often it'll only come once a week. So we need to, sometimes we have a wedding and perhaps the lei itself will be a week old or 6 days. So we need to, as a florist and professionals, we need to know how to care and handle this to extend it so it looks at its prime as best as we can. What I would normally do is, okay, I've twisted the lei, and then I would package it with wet paper towel. Now, in the old times, when I used to see them shipped, they would just package it in wet newspaper. And that's fine too. But I like to package it so that it is ready for the wedding. So I am not in favor of sending to the couple something in newspaper. So a little better, upgrade, I put it in wet paper towel. And it's important when you first get it, of course, to make sure you air out the box, because a lot of times these boxes come in and it's warm, and that's going to take down any product, any floral product, much quicker when you receive a box that is warm. Okay, so this is a finished product now, and I'm going to really thoroughly mist it down. And let's keep in mind that this lei may not go out for 4 or 5 days. So I may want to check on it one more time before it goes to the party, and the day that goes to the party, because you never know what might have happened in your refrigerator. Okay, so thoroughly misted. Then I just roll. Again, this was wet paper towel. Okay. Then you can just actually put this into a plastic bag, just like this. seal it up. Now, if it's going out in 2 days, you're probably fine. If it's going out 4 days later, I would say you want to mist it again. But this should be in a refrigerator, probably in a low, warmer cooler. So maybe 60 degrees would be safe. With tropicals, that's where a lot of people may have a difficulty. It's because they're putting it into a cooler that would be for roses, and that's just too cold. You're going to find damage in, for example, anthuriums. Maybe a red anthurium, for example, you may start to see purpling. And it's almost, the damage would be similar to if you received a box and the flowers had gotten heated up. You will often see a red anthurium also having some purpling. Now that will generally come back, and you just need to give it some time to acclimate back. But definitely, if it's in the cooler and it's too cold, that usually does not come back. Okay, so this is like already, normally I'm gonna have it tagged, wedding date, name, so I don't have to really touch it if it's going out relatively quickly. Okay, so the lei for the groom is set. Now, often there are many choices in leis for the female, the bride, and the most customary lei would be a white dendrobium lei. Now, in our case, for our bride tomorrow, I took into consideration her dress. Now, her dress had a very high collar, so it was just too fussy. So that's important to also take into consideration what your bride would be wearing. Our bride has she's a more petite bride, like a 0 or 2. So we're actually designing a collar for her, but a little bit more emphasis lower than upper, because we want to extend the line of her neck as well. So what we're doing here is something different, and it is the collar that's actually going to go around her neck. And so we're not going to do, like I said, her dress doesn't really allow for a lei. So what we have here is her flowers to wear, and I'm going to show you the mechanics of it. And the back here is faux suede. So that's going to be really smooth against her skin. And also, because I'm gluing on the foliages, it's keeping it really clean. It actually has a fuzzy texture. This is the faux suede. It has a fuzzy texture inside. This is the outside, okay? And I just got it from the fabric store, so it should be accessible, people could readily get it. And then I went ahead and to the suede, I've actually attached this chenille. And this is made from 4 pieces of chenille. And I'm just doing, okay, so here's our pipe cleaner, the chenilles. And I actually just joined up 4 pieces. And eventually you get one circular piece, which then I started to make these circles that actually like fit my finger, so that it kind of, it's still even. So that's what the backing is. And then because of the fuzzy texture of the chenille, it makes a really good surface to adhere. So the glue, which I'm using here, is the Oasis Floral Glue. Now being based on Maui, I did use fabric glue to attach the faux suede to the chenille. Just being a little bit more conservative, because this is a little harder to get because of it being flammable. So, and the fabric tack actually works well on foliages as well. It doesn't burn. So if you find that you're short of Oasis Floral Glue, then you could go ahead, I believe I had it here, but anyway, it's fabric tack. And you can use that on the foliages. So what we have here is, this is called kupu kupu, but it's a different one that's a curly kupu kupu. And this is what it actually looks like. And if it's grown in the full sun, it normally will stay very short. And if you have it in the shade, I've actually seen it about 3 feet tall. So for this case, in this situation, for this design, basically I am just using the tips. So right now I'm going to go ahead and break off some tips to show you and finish off this last portion. Okay, so that, and then you can choose the ones that are a little bit fluffier, which is the ideal for this. But okay, that's what that is. Curly kupu kupu fern. This is the kupu kupu fern, very drought tolerant. And this is the curly version. Very, very easy to grow, and it holds up very well. Okay. Now, also when I design, I like to use something very local. For me, designing for a wedding is very, very personal. And I feel like I'm really giving something of myself. I think it comes from the tradition of leis. When you give a lei to someone, you are really extending a part of you to that person. So I take that approach in designing. And so finding something local from the area, to me, is really important. So this is the local sedge that's grown on the Big Island. Unfortunately, I don't know the Latin name, but anyway, it is the local sedge growing wild on the east side of the island. For the Big Island, there are so many microclimates that all types of flowers really can thrive. So here on the eastern side, where it's much wetter, you'll find most of the farms where the anthuriums are, anthurium growers, and where you get a little cooler elevation, you'll have like our orchid growers, phalaenopsis, nobile orchids, intergeneric orchids. There is so much variety, and what I like to do when I use orchids is to purchase them in plants as a potted plant, and then bloom them out, because you just have more control of the material you're using, so that you have it in the right stage. You know how many flowers you're going to have. You're not going to be surprised about importing something and it has 4 flowers and half of it is in buds. It allows a little bit more control to have the best possible product you can offer your clients. Okay, so going back to this, we're using the kupu kupu and cold glue. I have here just a piece of paper that came off from one of the packages of the flowers, and I'm going straight onto the foliage. Okay, very good, thank you. I'm not finding that it burns. In some cultivars, you will find that the Oasis cold glue that is applied directly will burn. A temperate product that would burn would be like Galix or Salal, but the tropical flowers like this, grown in the full sun and our climate, they're hardy. They're very, very hardy. It's subjected to more climate. I mean, the storms, the wind, the sun, even our sun is a lot brighter and hotter. So we find that the growth is faster, and it also produces product that is a lot more sturdy. For example, jasmine grows here, and the jasmine is very sturdy. And I will be showing that later as well. Okay, so anyway, trying to finish this up. So just a little tedious. And tomorrow, you'll see it on the gown. This is kind of fun where you actually are designing for a bride, and it includes the dress. Now, the dress that she'll be wearing is from a Maui designer, Anna of Kulua, Maui, and she actually had a collar designed for the dress. But I would like to, she knows that this is a floral show or workshop, so she gave me permission to actually do it in a floral collar. We're using her same design, but now we're actually showing it with flowers to emphasize the beauty of our flowers here, which is kind of cool to have, you know, the opportunity to do that for a bride. Okay, so this is like very tedious. This is what you want to do when nobody's around and you can just finish off or watch your TV program or something. Okay, but I think what you have the idea now of what's going on here, the design. But finding stuff like this is really, to me, exciting as a designer. It's what I call stop the car moments, where you got to check it out and see what it is that you spotted. And then your brain just starts going into overdrive, like, what can I do? How can I use this into a design? So a lot of times the brides will come up with, like, for example, they'll tell you what color they want, and many brides, destination brides, are coming here and they want tropical. And as a designer, I often have to say, what do you mean as, what does tropical mean to you? Does tropical mean the flowers we're using, or does tropical mean the colors that we're using? And that is often, many brides think of tropical by color, because color is so important. It's probably the first thing they're going to notice. That will, I mean, okay, let me say, a lot of brides will have the palette of white and blush, and that's very popular. And yet, for the destination brides, a lot of them will say, because they're coming to Hawaii, they want something tropical. So this is very tropical in that we're going to come out with a bouquet that has this local sedge in it. And we have the tropical flowers, as well as some temperate flowers, which we call tropical Nouveau, where we're mixing, blending both tropical flowers and temperate flowers. And what happens is you get a much, much softer look, because often the key word is we want this to look romantic. And many of the tropical flowers are very line and angular, so the temperate flowers affords us to soften that and bring in the romance. Also, when designing, when I see videos of our weddings and I see our couples walking down the aisle in the video, and you see the movement in the bouquet, that also adds to the feeling and the mood of the bouquet. So that's very, very important. And I think for now, I have it done enough that we can just move on to the next one, But here it is, and the dress is made out of silk. So I have the same silk fabric that we will just tie at the back of the neck. So it is slightly adjustable still, but I think that's going to look very lovely. I will take the time afterwards to actually finish off any openings. As you can see, when I bend it, you can see the suede. So I'll be tucking in another layer just to clean up the edge. For me, mechanics are really, really important. And we just don't want anything falling apart. There's nothing worse as a florist to see our bride walking down the aisle and you wonder where that stem came from, you know? And it's like, okay, I wonder who the florist was. Why did it, something fell out. So I'm, really, really stressed, trying to be extra careful about that. Now, the process of holding this, okay, let's say, how are we going to store this? Because the wedding is maybe 3 days out. I don't think there'll be any problem storing this. Again, what I'm going to do is, I'm using this paper that I was actually using to glue. Then I am actually putting down, again, I'm going to moisten this paper towel because it's going to create this really comfortable zone for the flowers in the refrigerator. Okay. Now also, what I do use is Crowning Glory if we're ready to go. So this would be like, say, I would actually spritz this on, light spray. It's been sitting in the bottle, so it's not coming out how I would like. But anyway, I would mist that down. What's happened is it's clogged up. So I'm not going to do it right now. So I don't want to burn anything. But okay, now I'd have to be very careful with the silk because silk will stain. If it wicks up any of this moisture, you're really going to have, it's going to show up on the silk. So I'm going to tuck it right under the paper. Okay. I think if, we take care of our products, when some of these handling and care makes a really, really big difference. Okay, so I'm using this paper so I can actually slide it into this bag. Now, if you had what else I want to do? I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of moisture in this. I don't want to spray the grass directly in this case because this is the first time I've used this grass. So I'm going to go ahead and slide it right into the bag. Like that. Now, remember my silk ribbon was protected because it's in between the hard freezer paper. It's not touching the wet surface. And then if you had a twist tie, you could just use a twist tie. And then this would be refrigerated again. And keep in mind, warmer temperatures better. But I have had this within the refrigerator, the kupu-kupu, no problem. It doesn't, it's quite hardy. Okay, so that again, let me put that all on the side and then get to our next project. Okay. Which is the Bridal Bouquet. And this is product all grown in Hawaii. There is no reason to bring in product from anywhere else. all grown in Hawaii, may come from different islands, but it's like a potluck bouquet. Okay, it came to the party. This is like a tropical bouquet to me, and yet it also still has that bohemian look. I'm gonna pop it out here and bring it down. The bouquet is actually finished on both sides. So the bride would be seeing this angle, and she comes down the aisle, and we got this angle. We have a terracotta Anthurium, which is a nice small size for the bridal bouquet, grown here on the Big Island. And on this side, I have a beautiful Claranervium leaf, which is an Anthurium leaf. And let me show you that. Look at how stunning this is. So I have a Claranervium leaf, beautiful tropical foliage, tucked here, which puts off a nice backdrop to this beautiful fuchsia against the terracotta. And this terracotta Anthurium plays off beautifully with the local sedge. And the Phalaenopsis, also grown locally. Look at how that plays with this beautiful dahlia, which has like a creamy yellow center. And we have some bougainvillea. The bougainvillea was soaked for about 3 hours until it got turgid. And I have some moa fern right tucked in here. We have on this side a new introduction, Anthurium. It hasn't been named yet. It's a UH 2071. And this would be considered a medium size. So here we have the small size Anthurium, and here we have a medium size. And it's very, very important to know the sizes, especially in wedding work, because there is nothing more frustrating than getting something out of proportion that totally blows the design. And then you're trying to reinvent the wheel. So I urge everyone to get a hold of the latest version of Neotropica. Some people may have the older version. Let me show that too. I still use the older version a lot. It has pictures of all the different, let me put this down because I want to talk a little bit about that. Because people ordering often ask how I go about ordering my flowers. And most of the time, I will refer to the guide. But the trick is to know the sizes of what you want. And so I'm using the older version here. It's set up a little differently. But let's say I'm gonna open up to the Anthurium page. And it shows you by color. And you can look. It'll have like a number also. So sometimes you might say, okay, I want to order, you know, I would say sometimes on page 23, item number 53 or something like that, or in that range. I think it's important to also have your grower or your salesperson work with them very closely so that if you need something particular, I think the wholesalers that are more successful are the ones that are very progressive in working with their clients. They know what the client actually needs and wants. And every order is different in wedding work. I think that would like help everyone from the grower and the wholesaler and the designer get on track. And you often see that now where the bigger companies are actually taking photos prior to sending so that the designer many miles away is assured of what they're getting, and they're talking the same talk. So anyway, it's with anthuriums there is such a wide range of sizes. For example, the obake anthuriums, they grow into very, very large sizes. So a small obake is not this size. An obake a small obake is probably this size already. So very important to know what you are ordering. And better yet, if you have the chance to come to the Big Island, to meet the growers, to walk the floor, then you actually get to see what is available, and you connect. And you know what? I think connecting with your grower or the people you're working with is really the most important thing, because although a lot of people will say, well, you're a designer, you should be able to work with anything, I always feel that my wholesaler or my grower can make or break the design. Spending, you spend a lot of time, so we all want to get it right the first time. So anyway, I would say travel if you can, meet the grower, whether it's just driving down the street or coming to Hawaii, to make that connection. Super important. And that is one of the things that I really enjoy about coming to the Big Island, is making that connection. And the people here are very, very friendly and usually will go out of their way. We met some people that we never knew, and every place we went, we were welcomed with much hospitality. And it's nice to see a new generation coming into the business as well here in Hawaii. These temperates were all grown here on the Big Island, and the enthusiasm of some of the new growers, the younger growers, is very, very refreshing to see. Yeah. Okay, so Neotropica, excellent reference. Talks about different varieties. It's sectioned off. But yeah, be careful on the anthuriums, because that could throw a loop on the varieties. You have the tulip varieties, and that also goes small, medium, extra large, but they are generally very small. So it's important to know your varieties, the knowledge behind that. And these two references are ideal for that. And I'm pretty sure these are available if you contact your grower here, and you could get a copy of this. Is the latest version. Okay, so enough about that. Let's get back to the bouquet. So we have some low elevation cymbidiums here, this gold one. And now I'm trying to put this whole picture together of this wedding. And they're gonna have this in the park. So I wanted something very natural. And it's for a local bride. And that's great to have a local bride that wants to use tropicals, but we can sell it so much easier by saying, well, let's mix it up and give her a tropical Nouveau look. She gets the romance, some of this bohemian look. And I'm just amazed we could do this with all of our product here. Here we have the Calathea ornata. We have some of the copper color hanging amaranthus. Let me take it out, I think. This is better. We have some kangaroo paw, which is like I would say kangaroo paw fern would be like a Lois fern that is smaller size leaf, shiny. It does not like to be held in cold storage. If you go too cold, even growing it, the leaves turn black. That would be the downsize on that fern, but beautiful size. Look at how cute that is. Okay, and then we have some asparagus springeri. This is young, so it doesn't have the thorns yet. So very similar to Dysplexus, asparagus Dysplexus, but this is grown here. And this is our trailing jasmine. And we only find it flowering here though in the upper elevations. In the lower elevations, maybe 1,500 feet, you won't find profuse flowering, but very hardy. It's not going to be something you worry about. You're having a beach wedding and you're there at 12, 1 o'clock, and is this thing going to droop on you? This, because it's grown here in our elements, it's so acclimated to our weather that the chances of it surviving the time for photography and all that is that much greater. Okay, I have a little bit of this the new variety, the UH2071. It kind of just adds some depth. And if you notice, the bouquet is going in and out with multiple levels. So you don't, it's not, I would say I think it's softer. And this will allow that when the bride walks or when the breeze blows, we're going to have some movement. And that is, you know, really, really, I think when you see videos and you see that come across, it's really, it adds to it. You know, it may seem like it's nothing, but in those videos that you save for years to look at later, and you come down walking, the bride's walking down, and you go, that looks great. You know, many brides often will write back, and it's like, they're like all the wedding that they dreamed of, the flowers they wanted, and all of that. Okay, let's see, what else do we have here? The sword fern. We also have, besides this kangaroo paw, which looks like Lawai, but it's not. It's shinier and waxier, I think. I think it's waxier. We have what is called curly Lawai. And that's this one here. And you want to kind of keep that towards the center of the bouquet because it's very easy for the midrib to snap. So if I put it here, a lot of times it may snap. Then all of a sudden you have the bride walking down the aisle and you got this leaf sticking straight down. So the selection and where each flower was placed is also in the thought process. This here, this Clarinervium, I actually have used a U-glue, right underneath here, so that the trailing jasmine would stay just in the right spot, because it had a tendency to twist slightly off. So that U-glue was the little trick I used. And also, I just picked 2 bougainvilleas in gold stems, and 1 broke. So I always keep these extension picks. So I was able to save that bougainvillea. I don't know which one it is, whether it's the one back here or here, but it actually is in water. And if you can't get, I mean, if you don't have these, the other option would be to get this one, which has the hole in the bottom. You could just use an Anthurium stem and use that, and then it's all natural. You never know that there's this mechanic inside that's hidden. And I would use this also for anything that's really fragile, that you know ain't gonna make it. Because the process of delivering the bouquet and the photography, that could be going on for 2 hours. And this bouquet has been out of water, especially now as you see more temperates being introduced. The temperates are going down. The tropicals are fine, but we've got all these flowers. I mean, the flowers bending their heads, there's a beauty in that, it's in itself as well. There's some dahlias here that they look like they need water, but that's actually the way they're growing. And I'm like thinking, oh, I hope this hydrates up and perks up, but I know it's not. It's firm. but that's the way they grow, and that's part of the whimsy of what's going on in the trend of these boho designs. They're not as structured, they're looser, they're a little funky. Sometimes the color combinations, I'm like, ooh, oh, what was that? But that is the boho design. And you know, it's very, very popular. I can't knock it. I like, for me, color is really key, because that's what you're gonna see first. Then you're gonna see the size or the shape. But first thing you're gonna see is color. So that color's gotta work first thing. And initially this bouquet was going to just be green, mainly green, with fuchsia. We went and toured the site, and there's a beautiful shower tree as an option. And I was like, how do I pull this all together in this story? And by introducing these earth tones, you could then introduce some of these brighter colors that weren't, you know, I didn't think was going to be part of my plan. It was going to be green and fuchsia. But doesn't that work? And you know, the bougainvillea, it just leads in. One color leads in. So it's not like you have to study color. The flowers are all kind of telling me, okay, let's play. You know, it's a party in here going on. There is no specific mechanic. It's basically a hand tie. I wouldn't say it's a perfect hand tie. And in these days, crisscross stems goes. There is nothing, no rule that says it has to be a perfect spiral hand tie. Some people, they actually will cross stems because they feel it's going to create a more airy design. But just trained by nature, I tend to go with a spiral. I'm just comfortable doing it. So someone asked here what this vine is, and it's called Love in a Puff. And the seeds from the inside the pod is black or dark brownish black, and it actually has a heart shape in it. And I love the color. It just makes this design pop on this side, and wait until she walks down the aisle and you see this thing going like this. You know, that's the beauty of a bouquet that moves with the bride, breathes with the bride, and what we're trying to do. I think I've kind of covered all the material, but it was just very refreshing to be here and to see this kind of variety going on that the Big Island is producing. And we're seeing it actually on Maui as well. And so there's new growers, new blood coming into the industry, and which is great, because these flowers, if a bride said they wanted them, I would have said a year ago, unless I can get them locally, I will not include them, because they hold up 48 hours, and by the time it's shipped from the mainland, it's really beyond 48 hours, and it's a matter of they still look good because they were in refrigeration, versus driving up, selecting what we want, being really careful and taking the time to service our brides that come here. You know, that's, I think, part of the whole experience, that they come to Hawaii because they like the people, they like the place. It's very comfortable. So that's kind of the feeling that I get from our brides, because many of them come back year after year and bringing their family. So you know that the experience they got from being in Hawaii was very memorable to them. So when I see that, I know we did a really good job as the wedding team, from coordinator to florist and all the other vendors, that it was special and we made a difference. And I think that is part of our message of being from Hawaii. We like to extend that. And I think that's the specialness about being from Hawaii and being able to provide this to our brides. Thank you. And thank you, HFNA, for having me here.